Today we'll be doing a video on the Form A Class B CDL box truck pre-trip inspection. Form A covers the front of the truck to the engine compartment and ends at the driver's side tire. Some key phrases to know while you're doing any of these inspections. If the part is a hard metal or plastic, it is not cracked, bent, or broken, securely mounted with no missing parts. If it is a softer material like a rubber, it is not cut, chafed, or frayed. So those are some key phrases. No matter if you get Form A or Form B, all sections of this test will start exactly the same. So you would start off like this. Standing in front of the truck, I want to look, and first I want to observe that there are no low-lying limbs or power lines. I can see that the truck is not leaning to the left or the right, which would indicate low air pressure in a tire. I can also look under the truck, and I see there are no puddles, so there's no visible leaks, and I do not hear any audible leaks. Now I want to start at the top of the truck with my clearance lights. I have two amber clearance lights, amber in color. They are securely mounted, they're clean, they are not cracked, bent, or broken, or missing any bolts or parts. I'll come down the truck to my clearance lights above the cab. Again, they're amber in color, they are clean, they're securely mounted, they are not cracked, bent, or broken, and they are not missing any bolts or parts. Now I'll come down to my bumper, or to my headlights. My headlights are clear color, they are clean, they are securely mounted, they are not cracked, bent, or broken, and they are not missing any bolts or missing parts. I go to my turn signals. My turn signals are amber in color. They are also clean, securely mounted, they're not cracked, bent, or broken, they are not missing any bolts or parts. To the side of my turn signal is my marker and reflector. It is amber in color, it is securely mounted, it is clean, it is not cracked, bent, or broken, and it is not missing any parts or bolts. I have a turn signal on the outside here. It is securely mounted, it's amber in color, it is clean, it is not cracked, bent, or broken, and it is not missing any bolts or parts. Now I'll come down to my front bumper. My front bumper is securely mounted, it is not cracked, bent, or broken, or missing any parts. My front tag is securely mounted, it is not cracked, bent, or broken, and it is up to date. At this time, I will lift the hood and start on the engine component. Starting on the passenger side of the engine components, we will start with naming some of the engine components, general hoses, and belts. I'll start up top here with my coolant reservoir. It is securely mounted. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. The cap on it is securely mounted. It's not cracked, bent, or broken. I see no visible leaks. It has a full and low reading sticks on it. If I was to add fluid, I would add it here. The hose that runs from the reservoir is securely mounted with hose clamps. It is not cut, chafed, or frayed, and I see no visible leaks in that or the reservoir. All right, now I'll come down to my alternator. My alternator is belt driven. It is securely mounted. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. It's not missing any bolts or parts. The wires for my alternator are securely mounted. They are not cut, chafed, or frayed. My belt also is securely mounted. It is not cut, chafed, or frayed, and you want to make sure it's got no more than 3/4 inch of play. Next component I'm going to go over is my water pump. My water pump is securely mounted. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. No missing parts or bolts. It is belt driven, and again, the belt is securely mounted. It is not cut, chafed, or frayed, and no more than 3/4 inch play. The water pump has no visible leaks, and I will check the hose for my water pump to my radiator. It is securely mounted. It is not cut, chafed, or frayed, and I see no visible leaks. It's everything you want to cover on the passenger side. Now I'll go to the driver's side. On the driver's side, I'm going to finish going over my engine components and general hoses and belts. But before I do that, the first thing I want to do is I want to check my oil. If I were to check my oil, I would withdraw the dipstick, wipe it off, reinsert it, pull it back out, and make sure that my oil is within normal operating range. If it is low, my cap is on top of the engine here, and that's where I would add my oil. So now I will go, and it is securely mounted. Now I will go back to my components, to my air compressor. My air compressor is securely mounted. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. It's not missing any bolts or parts, and I hear no audible leaks. The hose from my air compressor is securely mounted with hose clamps. It is not cut, chafed, or frayed, and again, I hear no audible leaks. I'm going to move to my power steering reservoir. Power steering reservoir can read it by a max and minimum line, and it has sufficient within normal operating range. If it were low, I would remove this cap, which is securely mounted. It's not cracked, bent, or broken, but that's where I would add the fluid at. The hose from my power steering reservoir is securely mounted with hose clamps, and it is not cut, chafed, or frayed, and I have no visible leaks on either the reservoir or the hose. Now, after completing that completes the engine components, belts, and general hoses. Now I will start with my steering components, starting with the steering shaft. The steering shaft is securely mounted. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. It leads to my steering gearbox, which is securely mounted. It is also not cracked, bent, or broken. It is gear driven, and it is not missing any bolts or parts. It attaches to my pitman arm with a nut and bolt, and the pitman arm is securely mounted. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. It's secured to the drag link with a castle nut and cotter pin. There's a bushing between the pitman arm and the drag link that is not cut, chafed, or frayed, and it's not leaking. All of the remaining steering components will be securely mounted with a castle nut and cotter pin. So my drag link is securely mounted. It is not cracked, bent, or broken, missing any parts. My upper steering arm is securely mounted with a castle nut and cotter pin. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. My lower steering arm is securely mounted with a castle nut and cotter pin. It is not cracked, bent, or broken, or missing any parts. And then I have a drag link or tie rod. The tie rod is securely mounted with a castle nut and cotter pin. It is also not cracked, bent, or broken. After completing the steering components, now I go to suspension. I'll start here with my front and my rear hanger mounts. The hanger mounts are securely mounted with nuts and bolts. They are not cracked, bent, or broken, and I see no leaks. My leaf springs are securely mounted to the front and rear mounts, and they are not scissoring. They are securely mounted, not cracked, bent, or broken. They are secured with 2 U-bolts in the middle. The U-bolts are securely mounted with nuts and bolts, and they are not cracked, bent, or broken. This concludes the suspension outside of the shock absorber. Let me get that first. Shock absorber is securely mounted with an upper and a lower mount. The mount is attached with nuts and bolts. It's not cracked, bent, or broken, or missing any parts. The shock absorber itself is securely mounted. It is not cracked, bent, or broken, and it has a bushing. That bushing is not cut, chafed, or frayed, and I see no visible leaks. After completing the suspension, we're going to move on to the brakes. With the brakes, I'll start the air hose, which is securely mounted to the frame. It is not cut, chafed, or frayed, and I hear no audible leaks. The brake hose runs to my brake chamber, which is securely mounted. It is not cracked, bent, or broken, and there is a band in place holding the 2 components together. I hear no audible leaks. My slack adjuster and push rod is securely mounted. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. If I were to test my slack adjuster, I would chalk my wheels and release my brakes. It should have no more than 1 inch play. All right. Moving on with the brakes, I go to my pads. My pads are no less than 1/4 inch in thickness. I see no crystallization with signs of heat, and they are free of oil and grease. Now I'll go to my brake drum. My brake drum is securely mounted. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. I see no signs of heat or bluing, and again, they are also free of oil and grease or any other debris. I go now to start on my tires. My inner rim on my tires is securely mounted and beaded to the tire. It is not cracked, bent, or broken, and there are no illegal welds. Now on my tire, I've got my inside, outside wall, and I've got the tread. They're worn evenly, they're not cut, chafed, frayed, and there's no bulging, and I hear no audible leaks. I move on to the outside of the tire. It is beaded to the rim, securely beaded to the rim. Now I go over, my rim is securely mounted. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. There are no illegal welds. Go to my lug nuts. They're securely mounted, not cracked, bent, or broken. I see no shiny threads, and I see no rust trails. I also see there's no damage around the holes and no radial cracking between the lug nuts. All right, now I will go to my hub for oil, for gear oil. If I had a window, I could check the window, but since I can't, if I had to add it, I would remove this cap and add 90 weight gear oil. It is securely mounted. It is not cracked, bent, or broken, and I see no signs of visual leaks. Valve stem is securely mounted. It's not cracked, bent, or broken. I hear no audible leaks, and if I were to check my air with a air gauge, I would need 105 psi. This concludes the Form A of the Class B truck. Thank you.